Great. Hello, my friends. I'm Rick, and this is your seat at the table. And what you don't see is great white mama's tail flickering back and forth because she just climbed back up on my shoulders again. What are you going to do? This okay. So we're looking at Dungeons and Dragons Fiend Folio. Now I had the original Fiend Folio back in the day. It was the early '90s, or late '80s, early '90s when it came out. I believe it has the Ganthanki sitting on the front cover. Think, been a while. Uh, for the love of Pete. I don't know if I where it went. I don't know if I gave it to my oldest son as part of the deal. I don't think I did, but I don't think I did a video on it either. So anyway, I picked this one up secondhand, of course. I paid $15 for it. Or this might have been. Oh, this is why you can't be on my shoulder. Fall off and then grab herself on my back and tear my back up. It's just frustrating some days. The D20 system. I don't remember when I bought this. Don't think I bought it new. I think it was used when I bought it. And I don't make a habit of writing dates down and stuff when I buy things. So this was 2003. Uh no, I bought this from JCD and Hobby probably about 8 years, 9 years ago. It's been a while. So the Fiend Folio, of course, has a lot of familiar monsters and stuff. If you play D&D for any length of time, these things have cropped up in different settings and different source books over the time. We get the introduction. Welcome to Fiend Folio. This book contains more than 250 creatures for the use of Dungeons and Dragons adventures. This introduction explains how to read a monster's write-up, including summaries of the most common attacks and abilities. The monster's entries are ranged alphabetically by name. Monsters of the same kind are grouped together under the major entry. For instance, the Psycholoth and the Scaroloth are both described in the Yugoloth entry. But, jeez, talk about tongue twisters. It's made up names. Fully understand that because I make up names a lot too. So we get into basics and stuff and settings and feats, treasures, alignments, creature feats, including the flyby attack general, hover general, multi-weapon fighting, quicken spell-like ability, multi-attack. Then we get into some, the actual critters themselves. Abrand, don't think I've ever used these folks. The Abyssal Ghoul, I don't think I've encountered or used that one. Some of the stuff is just really weird, and some of it feels to me it's very case sensitive. The environment needs to matter, and the setting needs to matter. Aquatic Ooze, for example. The Blood Bloater, Floatsam Ooze. The Reekmark. The Bakaw. The Bakar? Kind of sounds like that. Those little organs that are in our lungs. If I understand the pronunciation right. Because society, because characters. The brute, Blackstone Gagat, construct. It's black. Yes, yeah. This is a construct. The blood hawk, the blood thorn, the bone speak, canamorph, the Shadariku, the Volvitor. You get the gist. We'll go down through there, go through all the century worm. Let's see. For another one I can't pronounce. Something that would be out of a nightmare for spider haters. The head with legs, the crawling head. See, that's appropriate. The crawling head. Makes sense. Crypt thing. Think of the Crypt Keeper. Dark ones. The Dark Stalker, Dark Creeper, Dark Weaver. Yeah, think of the Crypt Keeper. The Crypt Guardian. The Death Dog. The Demon Dan. I've used these a couple times in various campaigns over the decades. Shetor, the Demon. So Akibith or Tanari, the Blood Fiend, Clercher. The Maris. See, I like demons and devils because first there's a variety of them, and they can run from mediocre to horrifically powerful. There's a theme. So, for example, I'm kind of running a play by post on D&D Beyond right now that's sort of kind of petering along. I've had one player drop out because of schooling. It's fall now, so she had to drop out. And then she was the leader of the group, and so I have another player who literally never hardly ever posts, and when he does, it's like 3 words. Mostly, he's just seems like he's just trailing along and watching what the others do, which is annoying. I mean, it is. I'm getting to the point where I'm likely to gently but firmly cut that player loose and start fishing around for a couple more players. The other 3 that I have are good, but once again, they play better as a group, and they really kind of need somebody to be in lead because none of them want to be the consistent leader. But so there was a number of different possible tracks that I laid in front of them, and they failed. They decided to start pursuing. They took based on their encounters and their choices earlier on, they started to pursue this one, which includes encounters with a religious order that is follows the demon pit fiend, and drawing a blank as to bloody name at the moment. Asmodeus, or whatever the hell his name is, and he's like treated as a god in this setting. And his minions or his followers, his priesthood specifically, they really are fond users of the demon pool that's available to them, or the devil pool, excuse me, the devil. The devil asked me, it's not the demon. And so one of the early encounters, for example, they ran into a handful of his warrior priests, and the warrior priests they follow this is a trickster, quote, trickster god. So they disguise themselves using magic, so they look like, in this case, they look like a couple normal laborers. And it's not until you either observe that there's something shady about their alter self spell, or that you actually start wailing on them, that they lose that glamour and their real form appears. And then to augment them, because the player's like, well, there's only 2 of these guys, it would be cakewalk. Well, each one of these individuals carried, a sphere like a Pokemon ball that contained a barbed devil. So then 2 became 4 real quick. And the barbed devils can, if things get dicey, the warriors can run off, and the summoned creature can continue the fight. And it's kind of evolved in increasingly larger, more potent devils. I like that for this setting anyway. So Scorpion, Westrip. Anyway, if I'm also starting to getting winter coming in, I'll be spending less time outside. That means colder weather. I'm not inclined to be outside as much as I do during the summer. Although the humidity does play its role in me keeping me from being too ambitious being outside. Uh, so I kind of clump a lot of stuff in the spring and the fall outside wise that needs to get done. I've accomplished quite a bit outside in the yard, but let's not get onto that or get off on track. So if any of you guys play D&D Beyond, and you would be interested in participating in a play by post, look me up. Look me up. Maybe we'll. Because I'm also considering. I'm really starting to come up. I got this itch to start a second D&D stream, or not stream, but play by post that is kind of a loose variation of One Piece. If you're familiar with One Piece, if you're not, I highly recommend looking it up. If you're not into anime, the Netflix live action is the bomb. You get the gist of it right off. You get the gist of it right off. So I'm looking at possibly starting one of those, that kind of a campaign here in the next month or so. Anyway, double subcategory, which once again, I've used these guys numerous, not to say numerous, but here and there. The dire rhinoceros, I have used that. That is a nice potent tank to really, really wreck a group if they're not paying attention. The disenchanter, the Ethelgaunt. Ethelgaunt I have used, but in limited, let's just say in limited uses. And there's a variety of them. You get the black, the red, and the white, which is nice, so you can step up without having to retask everything or to remodify them. The Fencer, the Fey Touch, Flame Snake, Greater Flame Snake, the Formians. I have used Formians in the campaign too. They were harassing, and it was a so this has been over a decade ago. This was a group of players on horseback, kind of like a horse lord's campaign in a vast grassland, and the one of the players, the most reluctant one of the group, became this the prince, the son of a prince of the, or son of the their tribe's prince or whatever, and he was trying to save his tribe and his nation, etc. And these guys were infringing in on their territory, and it became a pretty interesting campaign uh, until it fell apart when they encountered a rock, and the rock flew off with half of their party in its talons, and the others didn't chose not to follow them for reasons I never quite understood, and the other two were unable to fight off the rock and its hungry nest of younglings, and it kind of ended that way. Anyway, we have a section on the giant, on additional giants, fog giants. You know, if you've ever run D&D long enough, giants are a common theme. Uh, I did the giants way back in the day heavily because that was part of the early edition D&D campaign, the modules and stuff. Man, you just can't really have a fantasy setting without the damn giants involved somehow. And they make some really good foes, but they also make some really good, not adversaries, but not necessarily allies either, although that can and has happened. But you can utilize giants in a different, in as the supporters of a. You know, you get a certain giant who's got a axe to grind or it's smarter than the average Yahoo, or the Frost Giants come to mind. They're really good at manipulating people, and player character groups fit into that category if they're not careful. Big Blood Golem of a Hexor, Brain Golem. I've liked golems. Dragon Flesh Golem. The Half-Face Centaur. Eh. The Half-Ithid Lizard Folk. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever used these guys. It just never came around to it. Half Troll Bearzabu. Barzazan. Yeah. Jeez. It'd be easier if they had it broken down here where you go, hello, you know, so you could roll it out of your, sound it out kind of things. The Holathon, the imp. Imps, lots of times. Imps come up a lot, especially as servitors and familiars for certain kinds of magically inclined, wizards and so on and so forth. Some dinosaur looking thing. The court constructs, the inevitable. I love constructs. I've utilized constructs many times over the decades. Iron Maw, Jackalord, Jackalware, Krith, the Keeper, Keep Angler, Kelp Angler, Kelpie. I've had Kelpies more than a few times. Casta, The Living Holocaust. What do we got? Right. The Nera characters, Curleen, Octopus Tree, Theocleron, Plain Touched, the Meluth, the Mechantrix, the Wispling, and the Shift. Quarth Mern, Rillamarn, Rukader. These buggers are tough. These buggers are tough. I faced off as a player against these guys. And when one of these things devastated a good half of our party, left us in pretty bad shape. We went back and got payback on it though, but it was the idea. A sea drake. So things like the sea drake. This would be something that I would tap for a pirate-based campaign. So this piratey play-by-post, having a sea drake in there at least once in the campaign would be suitable as an encounter in the ocean, as long as your party's capable of either outrunning it, out fighting it, or maybe outwitting it. You can say that about any drake, though. Not to be nothing that they're too god awful to handle, but could be a trick to do when you're doing ocean water battles. Selkies, use them numerous times. Shatterkai, them. I used these on one campaign that didn't do so well, and I'm not sure that it was just kind of crapped out. Sometimes you do the games and the games they last and some don't. Some just don't, the players' interest just don't dig in. They don't become immersed into it. Sometimes that's on the DM's fault, on the GM's fault. It's the GM's fault for that. But I try to point out that, players either have to invest in something. If you don't buy into what you're doing, you're just going to go through the motions. And one of the tricks as a good GM is to accept the fact that things aren't going well. Like my current D&D Beyond campaign, uh, things are stagnating. It's getting slow. The returns and responses are getting slower because nobody knows what to do because nobody will take lead. And as the GM, I want to somehow motivate that, but it's hard to navigate. Don't railroad your players. And it comes back to that. What do you do when you get a group of players that are not alpha male types? If you don't have somebody that's a natural leader that will inspire and direct and lead the rest of the players, it's really becomes a challenge, and sometimes it can be impossible. So you either have to tweak the campaign to suit them, or you take a greater lead in helping them get through it. But then you become in that situation where now you get accused of being, railroading the players and doing something you want, and the temptation to do just that does grow, right? The Shadoo, the Skulk, which I've used a couple times. Skybreeder, not some. I don't think I ever did that. The Solids. I had an entire campaign that based around these guys when I first started playing them. When they first started being introduced, and it was interesting. It was. So I do top them in occasionally. The spectral lurker, spirit of the air, the spore bat, the spriggan, steel predator. Used him. These are tough boogers too. Right. They have some unique challenges about them. Prove grab, pounce, rake, roar, sundering bite, blind sight, death. Yeah, you got a party with a pack of with a really good bard in it, or a pack of bard wannabes in it. Throw in something that can't hear them. It does really play a role. The steel predator is incapable of perceiving sound, thus immune to language-dependent effects and sonic effects dependent on hearing. This creature has adapted to this limitation that thus takes no penalty on the initiative checks because of its defenses. It is immune to electricity and sonic damage as well as petrification and a magic sense. A steel predator can sense the presence of any metallic magic item within 120 feet. Good stalkers. Sunworm, the swarm, abysmal ant swarm, plague ant swarm, cranium rat swarm, lesser pack, greater pack, average pack. I've used swarms. Swarms have their advantages. Especially if you get a big enough swarm. If you really don't want players going somewhere, have a big enough swarm. So they'll get tired of it, or they'll run away at some point if they're smart. Terror birds, thunderworm, the tunnel terror, Nothing like being in an underground setting and find out the tunnel has teeth. That's all of the asteroid scene in Star Wars and Revenge of the Empire. Or not Revenge of the Empire, damn it. Empire Strikes Back. Jesus, getting old. Fine horror, more, the Wendigo, Wicker Man. Every time I see the Wicker Man, I think of the. I think of I think they hold out in the desert. Uh, Burning Man, Yellow Musk Creeper, Yellow Musk Zombie Orc. Thing of the Yellow Musk is that you can use this judiciously in a wilderness setting. And the beautiful thing about it is this zombie orc gives you the example. The Yellow Musk basically controls the body of whatever it captures within its area. And so you can have all kinds of things, zombie creatures that normally don't become zombies to affect your players. You just have to get creative with it. All right. The Yugoloth, Urian, the Zodar. In Appendix 1, prestige classes, the Fiend of Blasphemy. Prestige classes for some of your critters. Always nice. The Fiend of Corruption, class features. Fiend of Possession. Appendix 2, grafts and symbionts. I never really got into the grafts. The symbiont thing I got, but grafting into changing things and adding additional things from other things to things, you got a lot of time on your hand. That sort of stuff's right up there. But what's nice is I'm not adverse to it. I mean, it's not for me, but I like the fact that it's there, that we have this. This is part of that crunch that second edition and third edition D&D is so famous for, is the sheer amount of rule adaptations and additions that give your campaigns more stuff to deal with, more things to deal with, right? All right, graphs. Yeah, it is what it is. My belly's starting to growl, getting on towards supper time. We laid down around 12:30. We've been binge watching Orange is Black, which I find myself kind of shouting at the TV occasionally. That's not like that, and you would not see that in prison, and that's why that's not going to be in prison, etc., etc. But I understand it's a TV series. It just annoys me sometimes, but it's entertaining. Uh, we're partway through or almost through the fourth season. They're in the process of trying to figure out how to bring the riot to an end. If you're familiar with that series, anyhow. So, Fiend Folio, if you can get your hands on one of these, they're well worth having. And I'm damn positive that the first edition Fiend Folio come out had different stuff in it. There's some things in here that carried over, but there's a lot of new stuff in here that was not in the original one. But without having the original one side by side, I can't really make that confirmation without 100% accuracy. So anyway, I hope you guys have yourself a great weekend, whatever. It is the beginning of October. We have Halloween coming up toward the end. Uh, Here in Iowa, it is yet another 80+ degree day today, although the 80s and 90s of the past week are supposed to drop into the 60s and 70s from here on out. So we shall see. The weather has been strange. Yes. What? Am I bothering you while I was up here?